Welcome to Champion Stories. If this is your first time here, subscribe now and tell us in the comments where you're watching from. And now, on to today's story. The morning sun filtered through the expansive windows of Manny Pacquiao's General Santos City home, casting golden streaks across the polished marble floors. The 8-division world champion sat quietly in his favorite leather chair, a steaming cup of Barako coffee resting on the mahogany table beside him. At 45, the lines around his eyes told stories of countless battles, both in the ring and in life. But today something different sparkled in his gaze. His phone buzzed against the glass surface, displaying an international number he didn't recognize. Manny hesitated for a moment, then answered with his characteristic warm tone. The voice on the other end spoke in accented English, introducing himself as a representative from a major Hollywood production company. The words that followed made Manny's heart skip a beat. Jackie Chan, the legendary martial arts icon and beloved actor, had specifically requested to meet with him, not for a typical celebrity encounter or publicity stunt, but for something far more meaningful. The production team was developing a biographical sports drama that would require Chan's expertise in action choreography, and they believed Manny's real-life story could provide the authentic foundation they desperately needed. As Manny listened intently, memories of his childhood flashed through his mind. He remembered watching Jackie Chan movies on an old, flickering television set in their cramped wooden house in Kibawe, Bukidnon. His mother, Dionysia, would gather all the children around, and they would marvel at Chan's incredible stunts and comedic timing. During those difficult years when rice was scarce and dreams seemed impossible, Jackie Chan's films provided a brief escape from the harsh realities of poverty. The representative explained that Chan was currently in the Philippines for a separate project and had expressed genuine interest in meeting Manny personally. The conversation shifted to the possibility of Manny's home serving as the location for their discussion, away from media attention and public scrutiny. The production company wanted to explore whether Manny would consider serving as a consultant for the film, helping to ensure the fighting sequences and emotional journey reflected authentic Filipino culture and values. Manny's mind raced with possibilities. Throughout his career, he had always sought opportunities to elevate Filipino representation on the global stage. Boxing had been his platform, but cinema could reach audiences that sports never could. The idea of collaborating with someone he had admired since childhood felt almost surreal. He glanced around his home, taking in the photographs that lined the walls. Pictures of his wife Jinky and their children Jimuel, Michael, Princess, Queen Elizabeth, and Israel smiled back at him. Images from his most memorable fights hung alongside family portraits and moments of triumph that had defined his journey from street vendor to world champion. The weight of the opportunity settled on his shoulders. This wasn't just about personal gain or career expansion. If executed properly, this collaboration could showcase the resilience and spirit of the Filipino people to a worldwide audience. It could demonstrate that greatness emerges not from privilege, but from determination, faith, and an unwavering commitment to lifting others along the way. Manny found himself agreeing to host the meeting, his voice steady despite the excitement building in his chest. As he ended the call, he sat back in his chair and closed his eyes briefly. The boy who once sold cigarettes on the streets of General Santos City was about to welcome one of cinema's greatest legends into his home. The afternoon sun continued its journey across the sky, but for Manny Pacquiao, time seemed to pause as he contemplated the extraordinary possibilities that lay ahead. Within hours of the phone call, Manny's home transformed into a hub of quiet but purposeful activity. Jinky moved gracefully through the rooms, her experienced eye ensuring every detail reflected the warmth and hospitality that defined their family values. She understood the significance of this meeting without needing explanation, having witnessed her husband's journey from their humble beginnings to global recognition. Manny walked through his trophy room, pausing before the countless championship belts that gleamed under the soft lighting. Each piece of gold and leather represented not just personal achievement, but the dreams of millions of Filipinos who had found hope in his victories. Today, these symbols felt different, less like endpoints and more like stepping stones towards something entirely new. His son Jimuel entered the room quietly, noticing his father's contemplative mood. The young man had inherited Manny's athletic build and shared his passion for sports, but he also possessed an artistic sensibility that drew him toward film and media. Without words, father and son stood together, both understanding that this moment could reshape their family's legacy in ways boxing never could. The kitchen filled with the aromatic blend of traditional Filipino spices as Jinky coordinated the preparation of authentic dishes. She had chosen adobo, pancit, and fresh lumpia, foods that told the story of their culture without pretension. The meal would be simple yet meaningful, reflecting the genuine hospitality that had carried them through decades of success and struggle. Manny retreated to his private study, where framed photographs chronicled his transformation from street fighter to statesman. He pulled out a worn notebook, its pages filled with handwritten goals and reflections he had maintained throughout his career. His pen moved steadily across a fresh page as he outlined his thoughts about the potential collaboration. The idea of working with Jackie Chan represented more than professional opportunity. It symbolized the bridging of two worlds that had shaped his identity. Eastern martial arts philosophy had influenced his training methodology, while Western boxing techniques had refined his skills. Now, the possibility of combining these influences in a cinematic project felt like destiny unfolding. His daughter Princess appeared in the doorway, holding a carefully arranged bouquet of sampaguita flowers she had picked from their garden. Her innocent gesture reminded Manny of the purity of intention that should guide this venture. This wasn't about fame or financial gain. It was about creating something beautiful that could inspire others to pursue their own impossible dreams. As afternoon approached, Manny changed into a simple barong Tagalog, the traditional Filipino formal shirt that represented both elegance and cultural pride. The embroidered fabric caught the light as he moved, and he felt the weight of representing his nation in this unprecedented meeting. He spent time in quiet reflection, remembering the countless mornings when he had trained before dawn, fueled by dreams that seemed impossible to everyone except himself. Those same dreams had carried him through poverty, discrimination, and defeat. Now, they whispered possibilities about touching lives through storytelling rather than simply winning fights. The security team arrived discreetly, ensuring privacy without compromising the warm atmosphere Manny wanted to maintain. He had specifically requested minimal interference, wanting the encounter to feel genuine rather than orchestrated. Jinky joined him on their terrace, where they stood together watching the bustling life of General Santos City continue below. The sounds of jeepneys, street vendors, and children playing created a symphony that had provided the soundtrack to their entire journey together. As the sun began its descent toward the horizon, Manny felt a familiar surge of anticipation, the same electricity that had coursed through his veins before every significant fight. But this time, instead of preparing for battle, he was preparing for collaboration, creativity, and the possibility of sharing Filipino resilience with the world. The late afternoon breeze carried the familiar sense of General Santos City through the open windows, a mixture of sea salt from the distant coast, cooking food from neighborhood kitchens, and the earthy aroma of tropical vegetation. Manny stood by the main window of his living room, watching the street with the same focused intensity he once reserved for studying opponents before major fights. A convoy of black SUVs turned into his neighborhood, moving slowly to avoid attracting unnecessary attention. Despite the careful planning, curious neighbors had begun gathering along the sidewalks, their phones ready to capture whatever celebrity encounter was about to unfold. Manny smiled at their excitement, remembering how his own children had once rushed to windows whenever famous visitors arrived in their community. The lead vehicle stopped in front of his gate, and Manny felt his heartbeat quicken. Through the tinted windows, he could make out the silhouette of a compact, athletic figure that had graced movie screens for over 4 decades. Jackie Chan emerged from the vehicle with the same graceful movement that had made him a martial arts legend, but there was something humble and genuine about his demeanor that immediately put Manny at ease. Chan paused at the entrance, taking a moment to appreciate the traditional Filipino architectural elements that Manny and Jinky had incorporated into their modern home design. The carved wooden details and native plants created an atmosphere that honored their heritage while embracing contemporary comfort. The action star's eyes swept across the property with obvious appreciation, suggesting he understood the significance of being welcomed into such a personal space. Manny descended the front steps with Jinky beside him, their movements synchronized after decades of partnership. Their children watched from the upper floor windows, maintaining respectful distance while witnessing this historic moment in their family's journey. The boxer felt a surge of pride, knowing that his family was experiencing this incredible opportunity alongside him. The initial handshake between the two legends lasted longer than typical celebrity greetings. Both men seemed to recognize the deeper significance of their meeting, two individuals who had risen from humble circumstances to achieve global recognition while maintaining connection to their cultural roots. Chan's grip conveyed strength, tempered by gentleness, qualities that Manny immediately recognized and respected. As they walked toward the house together, Manny noticed how Chan observed everything with the keen eye of someone accustomed to studying environments for potential action sequences. The martial arts icon appeared to be mentally cataloging the space, perhaps already envisioning how certain areas might translate to film. However, his attention remained primarily focused on his host, demonstrating the respect that had made him beloved worldwide. The entourage included several production team members who carried themselves with the efficient professionalism of experienced filmmakers. They moved with minimal disruption, clearly understanding that this meeting was about personal connection rather than business formality. Their cameras remained stored, respecting the private nature of the initial encounter. Inside the house, Chan's appreciation for Filipino culture became immediately evident. He paused before family photographs, taking time to acknowledge the images of Manny's parents and children with genuine interest. His eyes lingered on pictures from Manny's early boxing career, when the future champion still carried the lean hunger of someone fighting not just for victory, but for survival. The aroma of Jinky's carefully prepared Filipino feast filled the air, creating an atmosphere of warmth that transcended cultural and linguistic boundaries. Chan's face brightened at the familiar scents, suggesting his own appreciation for Asian cuisine and family-centered hospitality. The dining room had been arranged to encourage intimate conversation while accommodating the small group of advisors and translators who accompanied the visit. Manny guided his guest toward the living room, where comfortable seating had been arranged to facilitate relaxed discussion. The afternoon light streaming through large windows created a natural spotlight effect, casting both men in warm illumination that seemed almost cinematically perfect. Outside, the sounds of General Santos City continued their familiar rhythm, providing an authentic soundtrack to this extraordinary meeting. As they settled into their chairs, Manny felt a deep sense of gratitude for the journey that had brought him to this moment. The boy who had once watched Jackie Chan movies while dreaming of escape from poverty was now hosting his childhood hero in his own home, preparing to discuss collaborative opportunities that could impact millions of lives. The conversation began naturally, flowing between English and gestures that transcended language barriers. Jackie Chan leaned forward with genuine curiosity as Manny shared stories of his childhood in Kibawe, describing how action movies had provided hope during the darkest periods of his family's struggle. The martial arts legend nodded with understanding, recognizing the universal power of cinema to inspire dreams in young hearts worldwide. Chan reciprocated by sharing his own journey from Hong Kong's poverty to international stardom, emphasizing the discipline and sacrifice required to master martial arts while pursuing acting. His hands moved expressively as he described the countless injuries, failed stunts, and moments of doubt that had shaped his career. Manny found striking parallels between their paths. Both had transformed physical pain into artistic expression, turning personal struggles into entertainment that uplifted others. The production team members remained respectfully silent, occasionally taking notes as the two icons discovered their shared philosophies about hard work, family values, and cultural representation. The lead producer, a seasoned woman named Elena who had worked on several successful biographical films, observed the natural chemistry developing between her potential collaborators with obvious satisfaction. Jinky appeared periodically, refreshing drinks and ensuring comfort without interrupting the flow of conversation. Her presence added warmth to the gathering, and Chan's respectful acknowledgement of her role in Manny's success demonstrated his understanding of family dynamics in Filipino culture. The boxer's children occasionally passed through the room, maintaining polite distance while absorbing this extraordinary lesson in international cooperation. As the discussion deepened, Chan outlined his vision for the biographical film project. He described a story that would authentically capture the essence of overcoming poverty through determination, featuring a young fighter whose journey from street vendor to world champion could inspire audiences globally. The narrative would emphasize cultural pride, family sacrifice, and the responsibility that comes with success. Manny listened intently as Chan explained his approach to action choreography, which prioritized emotional authenticity over spectacular effects. The martial arts sequences would tell stories about character development rather than simply showcasing fighting skills. Each training montage and boxing match would serve the larger narrative about transformation, resilience, and the power of dreams realized through relentless effort. The conversation turned to the technical aspects of filmmaking, with Chan sharing insights about working with international crews while maintaining cultural authenticity. He emphasized the importance of involving Filipino talent both in front of and behind the camera, ensuring that the story would be told with genuine respect for the culture it represented. This approach resonated deeply with Manny, who had always prioritized elevating his countrymen alongside his own success. Chan pulled out a tablet, showing preliminary concept art that captured the visual tone he envisioned for the project. The images depicted boxing gyms with natural lighting, street scenes that celebrated Filipino community life, and family moments that emphasized emotional connections over material wealth. Manny recognized the careful balance between commercial appeal and cultural integrity that characterized Chan's most successful films. The discussion expanded to include potential filming locations throughout the Philippines, with Chan expressing particular interest in shooting scenes in General Santos City and the rural areas where Manny had spent his childhood. He understood that authentic locations would provide emotional depth that studio sets could never replicate, while also providing economic opportunities for local communities. As afternoon shifted toward early evening, both men began sketching rough outlines of story structure on napkins. Their collaborative energy was infectious, with ideas flowing freely between them as they explored how to balance biographical accuracy with cinematic storytelling. The project was evolving from a simple meeting into something more substantial, a genuine partnership between two masters of their respective crafts. Chan's team began discussing logistics, including timeline considerations, budget parameters, and the complex process of securing international distribution. However, their conversations remained secondary to the personal connection developing between the film's potential star and director, who continued discovering shared values and creative vision. The evening light filtering through the windows created a golden atmosphere that seemed to bless their collaboration, promising something meaningful emerging from this unexpected convergence of East and West, martial arts and boxing, cinema and sports. As the golden hour approached, Manny led Jackie Chan to his private training facility adjacent to the main house. The modest gym contained the same equipment that had shaped countless champions: heavy bags suspended from reinforced beams, a regulation boxing ring with worn canvas, and mirrors that had reflected thousands of hours of dedicated practice. Chan moved through the space with reverent appreciation, understanding that he was walking through a temple of discipline and transformation. The martial arts legend examined Manny's training gear with the eye of someone who understood the relationship between tools and mastery. He ran his fingers along the leather of well-used gloves, noting the careful maintenance that spoke to respect for craft. The speed bags, jump ropes, and weight equipment showed honest wear rather than showroom perfection, telling stories of early morning sessions and late-night dedication that had built a champion. Chan paused before a collection of photographs documenting Manny's career progression, images that captured the physical and emotional evolution from hungry young fighter to seasoned champion. He studied pictures from the Freddie Roach era, noting the intense focus in Manny's eyes during training sessions. These moments of quiet observation allowed both men to appreciate the visual narrative that their potential film would need to capture authentically. The conversation shifted to deeper territory, as Chan shared his own relationship with physical preparation and the spiritual aspects of martial arts training. He described how meditation and breathing techniques had sustained him through decades of demanding film work, drawing parallels to the mental fortitude required for professional boxing. Manny found himself nodding in recognition, understanding how both their disciplines demanded complete commitment of body, mind, and spirit. They moved to the ring, where Manny demonstrated basic footwork patterns that had become second nature after decades of refinement. Chan observed with professional interest, mentally cataloging the rhythmic precision and economic movement that characterized elite boxing technique. His background in choreographed fight scenes gave him immediate appreciation for the subtle artistry that separated good fighters from great ones. The discussion turned to the emotional core of their potential project, the responsibility of accurately representing the struggles of poverty while creating entertainment that could inspire rather than exploit. Both men had experienced the delicate balance between sharing personal pain and maintaining dignity, understanding that authentic storytelling required vulnerability without sensationalism. Chan outlined his vision for depicting Manny's early street fighting days, emphasizing the desperation and survival instincts that had driven a young boy to compete for money to feed his family. He wanted to capture the raw hunger in those moments while highlighting the discipline and natural talent that had distinguished Manny from countless other young fighters seeking escape from poverty. The conversation expanded to include broader themes about Filipino identity and the immigrant experience that resonated globally. Chan understood that Manny's story represented more than individual achievement. It embodied the dreams of millions who had left their homeland seeking opportunity while maintaining connection to their cultural roots. This universal appeal could make their film relevant to audiences worldwide. As evening approached, both men found themselves energized by the creative possibilities unfolding before them. The project was evolving into something more ambitious than either had initially envisioned, a collaboration that could honor Filipino culture while celebrating the transformative power of dedication and authentic relationships. Jinky appeared with fresh calamansi juice, her timing perfect as always. Her presence reminded both men of the family foundations that had sustained their respective journeys, reinforcing the importance of maintaining personal values while pursuing professional excellence. The simple gesture of hospitality created a moment of peaceful reflection in their intensive planning session. The training facility's atmosphere, filled with years of hard work and honest sweat, provided the perfect backdrop for their deepening partnership. Both legends understood that their collaboration would require the same dedication and mutual respect that had built their individual careers. The evening meal brought the entire household together in a way that transformed the business meeting into something resembling a family gathering. Jackie Chan sat at the head of the dining table alongside Manny, while Jinky orchestrated the serving of traditional Filipino dishes with the grace of someone accustomed to hosting important guests. The children joined them, maintaining respectful silence while observing this historic convergence of their father's boxing legacy with international cinema. Chan's appreciation for the adobo, pancit, and fresh lumpia was genuine and immediate. His familiarity with Asian flavors allowed him to understand the subtle complexity of Filipino cuisine, and his obvious enjoyment created an atmosphere of cultural bridge-building that extended far beyond professional collaboration. Each bite seemed to deepen his connection to the culture he hoped to represent authentically in their potential film. The production team members, initially maintaining professional distance, gradually relaxed into the warm hospitality that defined the Pacquiao household. Elena, the lead producer, found herself engaged in conversation with Princess about Filipino traditional dances, while the cinematographer discussed lighting techniques with Jimuel, who had inherited his father's curiosity about technical craftsmanship. After dinner, Chan requested to see more personal artifacts from Manny's journey. They moved to a quiet study where the boxer kept memorabilia that rarely saw public display, handwritten letters from his mother during his early career, photographs from his first amateur fights, and newspaper clippings from his breakthrough victories that had been carefully preserved in protective sleeves. Chan examined each item with the reverence of someone who understood the power of tangible history. He studied a faded photograph of young Manny selling cigarettes on the streets, noting the determination visible even in that childhood image. The martial arts legend understood that these authentic details would provide the emotional foundation necessary for their film to resonate with audiences who had never experienced poverty but could recognize universal human resilience. The conversation turned to specific scenes that would require careful choreography to balance historical accuracy with cinematic impact. Chan outlined his approach to filming training sequences, emphasizing natural movement over stylized action. He wanted to capture the unglamorous reality of daily preparation, the repetitive drilling, the physical exhaustion, and the mental discipline that separated champions from dreamers. They discussed the challenge of depicting Manny's early street fights without glorifying violence or exploiting poverty for entertainment value. Chan's experience with socially conscious filmmaking informed his vision for presenting these difficult moments with dignity and purpose. The goal was to honor the survival instincts that had driven a desperate young man while highlighting the moral foundation that had guided his transformation. The technical aspects of international production began taking shape as they explored shooting schedules that would accommodate both men's existing commitments. Chan's team would need several months to develop the screenplay, secure financing, and assemble the multicultural crew necessary for authentic representation. Manny's involvement would extend beyond consultation to include hands-on participation in fight choreography and cultural advisory roles. As night settled over General Santos City, both legends found themselves energized by the creative possibilities emerging from their collaboration. The project represented more than career opportunity. It offered a chance to create art that could inspire young people facing seemingly impossible circumstances, while celebrating the cultural richness that had shaped both their journeys. Chan's respect for Filipino values became increasingly evident as he observed family dynamics throughout the evening. His questions about traditions, customs, and social structures demonstrated genuine interest rather than superficial research. This cultural curiosity convinced Manny that their partnership could produce something meaningful rather than merely commercially successful. The evening concluded with tentative agreements about moving forward, pending script development and financing approval. Both men understood that their personal connection had created the foundation for professional collaboration that could honor their respective legacies while building something entirely new. The night air carried the familiar sounds of General Santos City, settling into evening rhythm. Distant conversations from neighboring homes, the gentle hum of electric fans, and the occasional motorcycle passing along quiet streets. Inside the Pacquiao residence, the atmosphere had shifted from formal meeting to genuine friendship, with Jackie Chan now moving through the space with the comfort of a welcomed family guest, rather than a visiting celebrity. Chan spent considerable time examining Manny's collection of championship belts, each piece representing not just individual victories, but chapters in a larger story of perseverance and cultural pride. The martial arts legend understood that these physical symbols would need to be represented carefully in their film, not as mere trophies, but as milestones marking the transformation of a hungry street fighter into a global ambassador for Filipino excellence. The discussion turned to practical matters as Chan's team began outlining the next phases of development. Eleanor presented preliminary budget estimates and production timelines, while the cinematographer shared visual concepts that captured the gritty authenticity Chan envisioned. The planning process revealed the enormous complexity of creating an international film that would satisfy both artistic vision and commercial requirements. Manny found himself particularly drawn to Chan's commitment to employing Filipino talent throughout the production. The martial arts star had researched local film industry capabilities and identified opportunities to involve native directors, writers, and technical crew members in meaningful roles. This approach would ensure cultural authenticity while providing valuable experience for Filipino filmmakers seeking international recognition. The conversation expanded to include potential casting for key supporting roles, with Chan expressing interest in featuring real people from Manny's past, rather than established actors. He wanted to include Freddie Roach, longtime trainer and friend, as well as family members who had witnessed the champion's evolution firsthand. This documentary-style approach would blur the lines between biographical drama and authentic storytelling. As the evening progressed, Chan's appreciation for Filipino hospitality deepened his commitment to representing the culture with dignity and accuracy. He observed how Jinky orchestrated household activities with quiet efficiency, how the children balanced respect for their parents with natural curiosity about their famous guest, and how Manny himself remained humble despite his extraordinary achievements. The martial arts legend shared stories from his own experience working with international crews, offering insights about navigating cultural differences while maintaining artistic integrity. His decades of experience bridging Eastern and Western entertainment industries provided valuable perspective for their collaborative venture. He emphasized the importance of patience and clear communication when working across cultural boundaries. Chan outlined his vision for the film's emotional arc, describing how the story would begin with childhood poverty and culminate not with boxing victories, but with Manny's transformation into a leader who used success to elevate others. The narrative would emphasize giving back to community, maintaining family connections, and the responsibility that accompanies public platform and influence. The production team began discussing distribution strategies that would ensure the film reached audiences in both Asia and Western markets. Chan's international relationships would provide access to major theater chains, while streaming platforms offered opportunities for global reach that could introduce Manny's story to younger generations unfamiliar with his boxing achievements. As midnight approached, both men recognized that their collaboration had evolved beyond simple business arrangement into something resembling artistic partnership. Their shared values about hard work, cultural pride, and family responsibility created the foundation for creative work that could inspire audiences while generating commercial success. The evening concluded with formal agreements to move forward with script development, pending final approval from financing partners and legal teams. Chan's commitment to the project was evident in his detailed planning and genuine enthusiasm for telling Manny's story with the respect and authenticity it deserved. The handshake they shared carried the weight of mutual respect earned through honest conversation and shared vision for creating something meaningful that would honor both their legacies. The first hints of dawn painted the horizon as Jackie Chan prepared for his departure from General Santos City. The martial arts legend moved through the Pacquiao home with quiet efficiency, gathering his belongings while maintaining the respectful demeanor that had characterized his entire visit. The early morning light streaming through the windows seemed to bless the conclusion of their historic meeting, casting everything in soft golden tones that suggested new beginnings. Manny stood on his front terrace, watching the city slowly awaken around them. Street vendors were beginning their daily routines, jeepneys starting their morning routes, and the familiar sounds of Filipino community life creating the soundtrack that had accompanied his entire journey from poverty to prominence. Today, these everyday sounds carried special significance. They represented the authentic culture that would soon be shared with audiences worldwide through their collaborative film project. Chan emerged from the house carrying a small gift that Jinky had prepared, a carefully wrapped package containing traditional Filipino delicacies and a handwritten note expressing gratitude for his respectful treatment of their family and culture. The gesture exemplified the warmth and generosity that defined Filipino hospitality, values that the martial arts star had experienced firsthand during his stay. The production team loaded their equipment and materials into the waiting vehicles, their movements efficient but unhurried. Eleanor secured the preliminary agreements and contact information necessary for continued development, while the cinematographer carefully packed the visual references and location photographs that would guide future planning. Their professional satisfaction was evident. This had been more than a successful business meeting. As Chan approached the vehicles, he paused to acknowledge each member of the Pacquiao family individually. His respectful bows to Jinky and the children demonstrated understanding of Filipino cultural protocols, while his firm handshake with Manny conveyed mutual respect between equals who had found common ground despite different backgrounds and career paths. The neighborhood had begun stirring with curious residents, hoping to catch a final glimpse of the international celebrity who had visited their community. Chan acknowledged their presence with characteristic humility, understanding that his time in General Santos City had connected him not just with Manny, but with the broader Filipino community that had shaped the champion's character and values. Manny felt a profound sense of gratitude as he watched the convoy prepare to depart. The boy who had once sold cigarettes on these same streets had just concluded negotiations for a major international film that would tell his story to audiences around the world. More importantly, the project would showcase Filipino culture, resilience, and values to viewers who might never otherwise encounter the beauty and strength of his homeland. The handshake between the two legends lingered longer than typical farewells, both men understanding that they had forged something deeper than a professional relationship. Their collaboration represented the meeting of Eastern and Western entertainment traditions, the bridging of martial arts and boxing cultures, and the fusion of authentic storytelling with commercial filmmaking. As the vehicles pulled away from the Pacquiao residence, Manny remained on his terrace, watching until they disappeared from view. The quiet that followed felt different from the calm that had preceded Chan's arrival. It carried the electric anticipation of dreams about to become reality. The meeting had exceeded every expectation, creating possibilities that neither man had fully envisioned when the first phone call had been made. Jinky joined him in the peaceful morning air, her presence providing the grounding stability that had sustained him throughout his extraordinary career. Together, they watched their city come alive with another day of honest work and community connection, the same environment that had nurtured the values now sought after by international filmmakers. The potential film represented more than career expansion or financial opportunity. It offered a platform for sharing the Filipino story of transformation through determination, family loyalty, and unwavering faith in seemingly impossible dreams. Manny Pacquiao had once again found a way to elevate his people while honoring the journey that had carried him from poverty to global recognition. A new chapter was beginning. Thank you for watching another episode of Champion Stories. If you enjoyed today's story, subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss any of our upcoming inspiring tales about Manny Pacquiao. Share your thoughts in the comments. We read every single one, and many times your ideas inspire our next episode. See you next time.